Wynter Tai chats with Sifu Russ Smith. Let's go. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Wynter Tai Chats. And just before we get into it, needed to do me a favor and hit that subscribe button down below. It definitely helps me out. And also throw a comment or two. So let's get into it. The chat today is with the owner and operator of Burinkan Martial Arts located in Dade City, Florida. He's been immersed in the Chinese, the Japanese, and the Filipino martial arts for well over 35 years and has been keeping those traditions alive by teaching for the last 25. Please welcome Sifu Russ Smith. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Oh, thank you very much for even agreeing to be here with me. You know,
My
once
pleasure.
again, you are one of those guests that was just really quick to, say, okay, I can give me a time, give me a place, and I can work with that. So I have to thank you profusely for that, sir. That was so easy to set a date with you. Thank you very much.
Oh, my
So
pleasure.
I know you are a very busy individual running a martial arts school and all. So let's go ahead and get straight into the interview. All right.
Sure.
So, Sifu Russ, how did you start the martial arts?
Yeah, so I was about 14 years old and I had a chance to go to the Philippines for about 3 months to go visit my grandfather who was working over there. And so I actually got a chance to start my martial arts training from one of the people that my grandfather worked with. He was an Australian who taught Goju-Ryu karate, at the animation studio that I was working at that summer. So I got a chance to start training karate, really enjoyed that training. And then when I came back to the US, I immediately looked for a school and have been training ever since. So that was back in mid 87, I suppose that was. I had trained a little bit of martial arts before that, but I didn't know what style. It was just a little bit of something with a family friend. But so I started in karate, found more karate here in the US, trained karate for a long time, and then learned about the past of Okinawan karate, how Okinawan karate didn't really necessarily come from Japan. It came from Okinawa up to mainland Japan. But also, Okinawan karate is kind of a mixture of styles, as we eventually find out a lot of styles are mixed martial arts in some respect, right? So Okinawan karate had a long history of interplay with southern China. So Fujian province, there was a lot of people uh, coming and going from Okinawa to the Fujian province. People would train martial arts and bring that back to Okinawa and mix it with the local boxing styles that they had in Okinawa. So I learned about that and I thought, I really love Okinawan karate. I bet it would be informative for me to eventually cross train in some Southern Chinese martial arts. So I found an opportunity to train in some White Crane from Taiwan and from Fujian province, as well as to train five ancestor boxing. All of these things helped me better understand my karate, but also kind of led me to explore more about Chinese martial arts, which are very interesting to me because in Okinawan martial arts, there aren't a lot of old books about the styles, a lot of written information about the history and the keywords and the principles and poems. There's very little of that, small amount, but very little. And so it's very interesting to look to Chinese martial arts and see kind of an older written history, not purely oral history, but more written. So I've really enjoyed how it's helped me understand my karate, but also I've very much enjoyed getting into Southern Chinese martial arts. From Fujianese martial arts, I then started learning White Eyebrow, which you and I share that brotherhood. And then ultimately, a sister style to White Eyebrow in Southern Dragon style. So I'm training Southern Dragon style quite a bit right now, and really enjoying that, the similarities and differences to White Eyebrow. So yeah, almost 40 years now. I've been probably teaching about 25 of those years. Um, and one of the things that really excites me about martial arts myself is I enjoy the teaching process. So I really, at some point, learned that I was a horrible teacher, and then I found that I needed to learn how to become a better teacher, and so I needed to learn the extra skills of teachers. And so there's a lot of specialties, a lot of special, understanding and communication, planning and organizing skills that real teachers have that I didn't have. So I feel bad for my early students, but I feel a lot better nowadays because I'm really trying to do a better job, and I've got some good feedback that it's moving in the right direction. So between training martial arts, I really enjoy that, but I also like teaching them as well.
That's absolutely awesome. That's absolutely awesome. I'm over here trying to write down this list of this list of martial arts that you just went through. So you started with Goju Ryu,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Then from you went into White Crane, and then from
Yep.
there, Five Ancestor, then Bak Mei, then Long Ying.
Yes.
Wow.
I think I'm done. I'm full. I don't think I'll live long enough to learn more. So I just have to study what I've already been given. So I really appreciate those things that teachers have shared with me. It's been a lot of things, but White Crane is a sub style of Five Ancestor boxing. So I didn't learn an entire system to BIC and learn the whole curriculum, but I learned enough White Crane to really respect the training methods of kind of the softer style. So a lot of the stuff that I learned, even though Gojuru Gongro Liu means hard and soft, it still a lot of people will express that style in a very hard way. So seeing White Crane's very soft manner or Tai Chi's very soft manner of doing things really helped me learn what balance meant and learned how to invoke the softness so that I can accelerate and be hard when I need to be. So yeah, the cross trainings helped me in a lot of ways, especially with power. Goju taught me a lot of good power, a lot of good Fajin that matches what you'll see in some of the Southern Chinese arts, but also there are other ways to kind of refine it or talk about it or teach it or train it. Knowing it is not enough. You got to have good ways to train it and practice it. So every bit of cross training has been some kinds of light bulbs that have helped me along the way.
Yeah, wow, that I can see the benefit of it. And it's just so cool that, like you had said, you had looked at uh, you had looked at the origins of Okinawan karate and seen where those roots had come from, and you actually yourself wanted to experience that kind of history, that kind of
Yes.
how should I say evolution, right? Which is pretty cool, right? Going from
Yeah.
Goju pure Okinawan and then going
Yep.
into the Chinese and so on like that. And not only that, right? You took the words out of my mouth a while ago when you had talked about hard versus soft. Because I'm looking at this list and I'm like, wow, that is a big list of hard versus soft or hard
Mhm.
and soft styles put together,
Right.
right? Now, apart from this, looking at the same list, I'm looking at
Mhm.
this list and I'm like, wow, this is very impressive in the fact of just looking at the Chinese part, right? You are going from northern to southern, internal, external, right there. So it's incredible. I do have to say that
Yeah,
because you've
there
gone from,
there's some northern influence in Five Ancestors that comes from the original Taizu
mhm,
boxing or the old Chang Chuan, the long fist that came down to southern provinces like Fujian province. Most of it though fits kind of that southern style, like boxing methodology that's kind of upright instead of kind of the long side facing styles. So I definitely have a preference for that kind of short, in close clinch range fighting in a phone booth. Not that a lot of people know what phone booths are nowadays, but you know.
but I do let me do continue. Let me
Sure, I'm
continue.
sorry.
It's not just southern though, right? You have gone into Hakka,
Hmm.
right? So it's
Yeah, yeah.
so even to an even more distinct subset, right, of
Hmm.
southern martial
Yeah.
arts, and not by not just going or sticking with one like me, for example. I'm just
Hmm.
about me, but you've also gotten into Longying, right? And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
interesting.
I've really enjoyed this this chance to train white eye or dragon after training white eyebrow because it helps me understand my white eyebrow better because dragon being one of the kind of four styles inside of white eyebrow, it really helped me understand those techniques a little better. So, for me to describe dragon boxing, a lot of this is going to be similar to what you're used to, Sifu, in your white eyebrow. So, dragon boxing is upright, hands to the front. The my teacher always says the hands protect the head, the forearms protect the chest, the elbows protect the vitals. You control the center or invite the center. Um, we our power methodology is more like a machine gun though, less like a shotgun. So that's one of the places it's just a little bit different than white eyebrow. White eyebrow has a lot of like full power, everything penetrates all at once, the whole body locked down into it. Whereas dragon is more often is rebounding like a springing force. So a slight difference in the power, but the it's so direct. It's not abstract. When you look at the forms, you can see so clearly what it's for because it's boxing, right? The body shape is for boxing. The way you pay attention, the way you cover, the way you defend and attack at the same time. So almost every technique, all the techniques that we share between dragon and white eyebrow, like Buigam and Lam Da and Cowpack, all these techniques, they have simultaneous defense and counterattack all at the same time. So it's so practical. The practicality of the art is very, very high. But that makes the challenge in practicing and teaching it because it's difficult for people to walk and chew gum at the same time. It's difficult to have the left hand and the right hand do things in a particular timing, but also have great footwork with that at the same time. So you're moving off to the flanks and you're developing your power base so that when you land, you can express good power. So trying to teach the left, the right, the upper, the middle, the lower portions of the body all to work at the same time with good power and flow. Very, very challenging aspect of Hakka martial arts because, from my perspective, Hakka arts are meant to be taught in 3 to 5 years to some level of good proficiency, not 20, 30, 40, 50 years before you understand the system. So for me, it's meant to be very practical as quickly as possible. You get people working together, testing out the material, learning timing and range, position, power, and flow. So all those things are very similar to white eyebrow, but maybe just a little bit different in the rebounding power.
Okay. All right. That's awesome. That's awesome. So really more, I like that analogy you had given earlier. So you had said that Long Ying, it's more like a machine gun
Yeah, that's what my Sifu
versus
says a lot.
versus a
Yeah,
shotgun, right?
yeah.
So, I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome. I like how that says. So it's more like rapid fire. So would you say this is my limited knowledge on Dragon, right?
Hmm.
When you say that the differences in Dragon, right? Would you say more Q would be one such concept that is just specifically to Dragon? Um,
Oh, I feel like more. I feel like the concept of more, and just this is for other people that may not know. There's two characters for more that show up in Hakka martial arts. One means to sense or feel, and the other means to rub, grind, or polish, right? And regardless of which character you use when you say more cue, like your rubbing bridge or your sensing bridge, either way, I think that's a real hallmark of Hakka martial arts is the sophistication of the bridge control, the bridging methods. We have 5 keywords we use to talk about this kind of technique. We say chi, more, fa, lap, da. So chi is to stick, more is to grind, fa is to neutralize, lap is to grab or pull, and da or peck is to hit. So, you stick, you grind, you neutralize, you hold, and you hit, right? So my teacher talks about these arts like, oh, well, you know how most Chinese martial arts say the art has 4 skills, ti, da, shui, na, to kick, to strike, to throw, or to lock. My teacher also adds dim for point striking. And so he says Dragon is a lot about making sure the power goes in, by holding them so that they don't move so you can ensure the power penetrates, right? So it's almost like hockey fighting, right? Reach out and grab and pummel someone until they're until they stop attacking you. So that's the way my teacher talks about the art.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I love it. I'm just really I'm really taken aback at how we actually got into this without me even getting to ask my second question, which was, what is dragon boxing, right?
Sure, sure.
And what you just explained about how about holding and striking to let that power go through. The whole point of it is to hold until to let that power go through, right?
Yeah.
Now that brings me to the second part of the question: how effective is dragon boxing for fighting or self-defense?
Yeah, yeah. So the first part of the question, what is dragon boxing? So like white eyebrow, it's a Hakka system that was passed down again by the Hakka people who are nomadic from the north, typically to the south, even passing through the Fujian regions. So we do believe there's some cross pollination between Fujianese martial arts and some of the Hakka martial arts in the south. Um, it's basically a two-part style. So one part of the style was passed down from this man who was called the Haifeng monk, and the other one whose name was Dayuk. He was also a monk. So the Haifeng monk, he passed the art to a man whose name was Lam Ahab. Ahab also was one of Chung Lai Chuan's teachers. So there's some cross pollination between a white eyebrow and dragon style in that way. And then there was also the Dayuk's teaching, which stayed in the Lam family. So Lam Yuguai, his father helped him get the training. He passed along this combined system of two different arts. And so very similar to white eyebrow in that we have some power development forms we call lighting, means to pull to show your power, grab and hold so you can hit them clearly. Um, and again, it's more of a boxing style, so it's less of a throwing and joint locking style, but more of a stand up bridge work, boxing, kicks. But we say most of our kicks need to be no shadow kicks. So we either poke you in the eyes so we can kick you and you can't see it, or we just kick low and fast so that you can't see the kicks coming in. So there's kicks, but it's mostly handwork. There are some takedowns and some grappling as well, but it's not the main elements of the style. But like white eyebrow and other Southern Chinese martial arts, we use the same concepts of tun to fo chum, so swallow, spit, float, and sink. Along with that, we say yun bin fuk. Yun is to circle, to move in circular ways. Bin is straight or flat, and fuk means to ambush or be sneaky. And that usually for us, that means kind of coming in from the sides, the angles. So we're always trying to flank and zigzag and use the motion of the dragon. That kind of Chinese serpentine style of movement is all over dragon style. So it keeps the footwork very light, which makes it feel a lot more like Western boxing, the way that we apply it. So the footwork is very light and rapid. We're often attempting to work in from the flanks. As to how effective it is, I don't know yet of any dragon boxers in MMA, but I would tell you, I hope to see that at some point. Hope to get some guys in through our school at some point. That are very serious about honing their fighting skills. The art is very no nonsense. I mean, you grab my wrist, I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing things. I'm going to counter grab and smash the face, right? Grab the wrist, break the elbow, right? The self defense is very, very straightforward. It's very no nonsense. Everything has the idea for the best timing built in. So we want to defend and counterattack in the same timing. No defend and then wait and counter. It's all meant to happen at one time. Slip in through the defenses, the hands move together. And then the hard part is to develop the power to make sure that, if you get the right technique and the right tactic, then at least you have the engine to make it worthwhile. Because if you don't have enough power to scare somebody, same concept, scared power, the geng jap geng. We
Mm-hmm.
want to have that kind of power that scares people. They either see it or feel it, and they shouldn't want to continue, right? So to be able to develop that power at very short range, but also penetrate very deeply, use the full body structure, very important. So my teacher talks about yin and yang concepts all the time, and so every technique you want to have a very yang version of the technique, a very yin version of the technique, and then something in between. So that might be like Gim coming from underneath or striking over top or happening at the same time, or thinking about the upper portion of the bridge, the lower portion, and the inside. We're thinking about the yang being the momentum or the function of the movement, and yin being the structure. So make sure your body structure is very solid, so that the momentum has the full value of your mass, right? So if you think about the force equation, mass times acceleration is force. Mass is how fast you can move. Acceleration is how fast you can move. Mass is how much of your body. Is it just your hand, or is it your whole body using sinking force or spinning force, so that you're using your whole mass in the equation to get the full power? So those are all things that we try to do our best to train well so that we can apply the art and have a very effective fighting system.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And as you're talking to me, I'm picturing the classic Hakka stance.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm picturing looking, and as you're talking about being able to,
Exactly.
to expel force. Well, being able, if you can expel force, you need to be able to withstand it, and that withstanding is all through looking. Once you have
Yes.
your structure right there, then
Yes.
yeah, all for it, man. All for it. Thank you. And
Yeah.
and what made me smile a while ago is once you had mentioned Ging Jack Ging, is that's another real big hakka, something that's really
Characteristic.
yes, characteristic of all hakka martial arts, even in Bat Mei, right? Because I was
Yes.
about to ask you, is there any, well, of course, as it being hakka, like, do you see any similarities to Southern Praying Mantis?
A bit in that we do really want to have a development of stickiness of the bridge, and Southern Mantis, definitely specializes in that style of training. So yeah, I see some crossover there. I do since I've been lucky enough to have a little bit of training under one of my white eyebrow seniors in his Juklum Mantis. So I've had a little bit of exposure, but it feels for me, I feel like if you had to put these on a hard soft continuum, I think with its tiger attitude, I think White Eyebrow is maybe the most hard of the styles. I feel like the Juk Lum, as I learned it, has a lot more adaptability or flexibility. I prefer those words instead of soft. I don't think
Mhm.
soft is a good way of translating that character. Um, in a martial context. Soft doesn't make a lot of sense from a fighting perspective, but adaptability, flexibility, those to me make a ton of sense. So I think Mantis is very adaptable, and I think Dragon tries to sit very in between. It tries to be very aggressive when it needs to be. It tries to be a bit flexible when it has to be. So I think about the way Yu Da Yo, famous Southern Chinese general, talks about hard and soft. He says be hard when you have the initiative, be adaptable when you don't. So if you can run over the other person and finish the fight quickly, running right through the center, do it. Right? That's the idea. But if you can't, if you were off your timing, if you're maybe physically smaller or weaker, or you just made a bad first move, you've got to be adaptable to find gaps in their timing, in their movement, in their timing primarily. So that's how I think about that hard and soft and kind of where Dragon, White Eyebrow, and Mantis fit. For me, that's just my own opinion. But when I think about White Eyebrow, I think about crashing right through the center, right? Seeing which ways I can just dominate the bridge over top. For Dragon, I think about slipping the angle to the corners, and for Mantis, I think about baiting someone into making a mistake.
Okay. I see eye to eye on that one.
Yeah, cool.
I completely agree with you, right? Because in my experience, of course, as the only experience I have, first, Jikbu. That's what that's what you're learning in
Yes.
Batme, Jikbu, right? I know it's that straightforward stretch. You go right
Straightforward.
through it,
That's a
right?
lesson. Yes.
Exactly, and that is the pillar form, the first pillar form of Batme. Go right through. So
Yes.
what you say hits home. It really does. And
Yeah.
then learning Lung Ying more Q. Lung Ying more Q.
Yeah.
It's more. right? Coming in and coming in out.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see it. I can definitely see it. Thank you very much for that, Sifu
Cool.
Russ. This is an
All right.
awesome conversation, man. I'm having
Same.
so much fun with this. Having
Same. I
so much
look forward
fun.
to getting together with you in person at some point. It'll be fun.
We definitely will. You know
For
we will.
sure.
We're both in Florida. Even though
That's
we're
right.
always apart,
We'll
we
make it
will find
happen.
somewhere. You definitely will. Okay, so third question for you. Kung Fu, right? Usually, what's that? A skill acquired over time. I like to say it over time, even though I had one guest correct me and said it doesn't really mean that, but this is how usually is taken. What do you believe is the hardest part of developing Kung Fu?
Yeah, there's a few elements to this, so I guess I'm going to have a hard time putting my finger on just one. So bear with me for a second, though.
No problem.
I think there's a handful of things that are super important. One is, what the word kung fu kind of really means, I think is appropriate. The discipline to be consistent in your training, I think is absolutely the first level. You have to show up, you have to do the work, you have to put the reps in. Um, as a teacher, I can't fix somebody if they're, so think about like making a clay pot, right? If the clay is too wet, I attempt to put my hands on it, I let go, it just falls right back down, right? So every student needs to get themselves consistent enough in movement to even be helped by a teacher. So in the beginning, I think the first level is just the discipline and consistency of showing up and doing the reps. The next thing that I think is maybe the most critically important thing for everybody, and I think where the biggest challenge is both finding and being a good partner. The key to developing any skill beyond what your teacher can give you, your teacher's only going to touch hands with you so often. The best thing you can do is find and develop a good partner. So you find a kung fu brother or sister who is around your same level, who is as dedicated as you are, or maybe more, and be a good partner for them. You're giving your body, you're trusting them with your body so they don't hurt you. You've got to do the same, but you've also got to work on increasing your randomness and aliveness and intensity over time. It's the only way to develop true skill is to try things, break them, fight your way out of a bad position, in five ancestor box. Well, there's an old saying that comes from the 36 strategies. It says to find victory in defeat, you've got to be put in bad places and be creative. And I think that's really kind of my last point is in your training, be creative. So find weird ways to do things, right? Not every fighting strategy or drill has to come from the Baizhong position, right? Or the hot yi sao position. Sometimes it comes from he's got you in an arm bar. Okay, now you go. Sometimes he's got you in a headlock and then you go. You've got to find your way using your art out of all kinds of strange positions because, fighting is ultimately practically infinite, the configurations you can get in. And so, what we train in the Kwoon is kind of a best case scenario. You've got shoes, it's not raining, the sun's not in your eye, they're not kicking dirt in your face, that kind of thing. So I think for me, those are the main things in developing your Kung Fu is you've got to put in the work and then you've got to have a good partner. Pay attention to the formulas and the keywords that your teacher gives you because those are the keys to self-correcting. If you're listening to your teacher, if you've got a good teacher, they're going to give you formulas and keywords and ideas. And every drill they give you is just an example of how they want you to train. It's not everything they're expecting of you. If you want to be good, you have to do far more than your teacher gives you. So think about that as a student of any discipline. Take what your teacher's given you in terms of ideas, learn those principles, and really study. Don't just train. So I think of training as doing what you were told, studying as going beyond, right? The way I learn things is I take it apart and I put it back together. Or maybe I have some extra screws left, or maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, maybe I have to try again. But I think Kung Fu is the same. I think you have to try and be variable and make changes and adapt and evolve. And then just remember the keywords of the system and the poems of the system so that you stay somewhat on track. Um, One of the things I really like about Kung Fu Sifu is for me, my experience has been that teachers think about principles more often than the examples. So my teachers will give me those as the goals. Like the goal is use circles to defeat straight lines, or use straight lines to defeat circles, or come or flank or return to the top of the bridge when you find yourself in a bad place. All of these are ideas, but how do you train them? Well, there's many ways. And so what you have to do is remember to practice, remember to get yourself into bad situations and those kinds of things. So hopefully that helps.
That helps a ton. I love those. I love those. That's a great answer. And I couldn't have said it any better than you, my friend. You have a very easy way of explaining things, right?
Cool.
It's
Cool.
very digestible. And it's very,
Awesome.
very understandable from the get-go. Thank you very much, Sifu Smith. All right, so let's go ahead and take it from this Kung Fu question straight into how Kung Fu, how martial arts, period, how has how has martial arts influenced your professional career, my friend?
Yeah, yeah. So I think there's two parts to this for me. I think one of the great things for those of us that did not go into the military is martial arts for a lot of us helps us go through something very difficult in our lives. And if we do have what I talked about earlier, the consistency and discipline to put in the work, at least when I came up almost 40 years ago, I mean, training was very hard. Not a lot of people today are willing to do the kinds of things that I did back in the day to push myself as hard as I did, and a lot of us did back then. But I think when you push yourself very hard to do something very difficult and you survive it or succeed in some measure of success, I think it gives you a confidence that really helps you in all aspects of your life. I think I see that in people that go into the military and they go through boot camp and they come out the other side a completely changed person. And I also see that same kind of benefit in a lot of people through traditional martial arts, whether it's karate or kung fu. So I think that is one of those things that's helped me tremendously, is the confidence to say, look, if I can go through that, I can go through this challenging thing at work. I can put in the work. I can look at the long-term goal. I can do the short-term difficulty. I can eat bitter now to have the fruits later, right? So I think that's a huge thing. And then I think the second one is related to what I was talking about earlier, where to me, teaching is an element of the big martial arts pie that I enjoy. And every slice is kind of some different element of why I enjoy the traditional martial arts. Teaching is a specialized form of communicating, and communicating is difficult. And when you realize that even as a teacher, there's no one right way to communicate, in reality, you can come up with the best plan as a teacher. You can think you have your curriculum all in order. You can come up with lesson plans. And the minute you reach a student that isn't the straw man student that you saw in your head, your plan changes, right? No plan survives contact with the enemy, or as Mike Tyson would say, everybody has an idea till they get punched in the mouth, right? So I think that realizing that teaching is communicating, communicating is difficult, communicating is a superpower if you can do it well, definitely is one of those things that helps me in my work, is understand that there are many kinds of communication. The sender of a message is actually the only one that can figure out if the message was received. So when you send a message in any format, whether it's email or on a phone or through martial arts, you've got to figure out a way to get the student to show you they understood. They've got to back brief you. You've got to ask them to repeat it to you in a different way, or show me what I just said, or demonstrate it. So there's some element of always like mirroring and communicating. So for me, those are the things, right? The confidence gained by doing hard work and surviving it. And then lastly, just understanding that communicating with people is very difficult. And learning to teach martial arts has helped my communication in a work format.
Well, that's absolutely awesome. And to that second point, um, I remember at the beginning of the conversation, you had said something to the effect, whereas when you started teaching, you realized how much of a bad teacher you were. That's
It's unfortunate. Yeah, I feel bad for my early students because including my son, right, when he was young and I was trying to teach him, but I was teaching the old way. I was teaching the way that said, like, you're here to do reps and not ask questions. Like, and not answering questions is a great way to shut down inquiring minds and students who might really excel. So figuring that out, also learning that other people aren't me. Like I came into martial arts for one reason. Of that reason has evolved over the years, and everybody has their own ideas about why they're coming in, and they don't all match mine. So as a teacher, I have to figure out, can I even serve this student, right? If the student wants to come in and learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I can't teach that. If they want to learn Tai Chi, sure, I can also teach a little bit of Tai Chi, but as soon as they surpass me, I'm going to send them to another teacher that knows more. So, just knowing your limitations, knowing that other people are slightly different and everybody has different goals, I think that's critically important as a teacher.
Definitely, definitely. And as you were saying before, the communication, that's the biggest thing right there,
Yeah,
as you were saying, right? So you were alluding to your first group of students, right? You feel bad for them. It's, as you say, you just weren't communicating that old school way of teaching. I
right.
myself am very guilty of teaching that old school way because I was
Yeah.
taught that way too. So
Oh yeah. Yep.
so I
It's
get you.
and there's a time and place for it, right? I mean, especially in the beginning when a student's learning a brand new thing, I sometimes have a student who'll, they'll do a couple reps and then they're saying, "Oh, well, I'm not sure. This doesn't feel right. Is this really good?" I'm like, you've got 5 reps in. You don't have an opinion yet. You don't get an opinion yet. You need a little more time. The clay is far too wet. Get some reps in, and then we'll continue to address your questions and challenges. And I'll absolutely work with people on that. But there's a time and place for old school as well.
But see, for us, don't you believe that communication, it could be a double-edged sword in a way? Because like, okay, yeah, you're communicating more, you're explaining more, so your students probably are benefiting more in terms of retaining knowledge, right?
Right.
More than you did, than your
Yes.
experience, right? But at the same time, giving them too much information, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
having
It
them,
can.
and as you say, not having them experience as much, but having more information, that could be to their detriment. It's like basically
Yeah.
having a GPS. You know the way there, but have you gone there really?
Right.
You know?
No, it's a great
So,
point. Yeah, definitely you could spend too much time talking in class. So that's a thing you got to really be careful not to do. So certainly if you explain more, you still have to time box yourself as a teacher and make sure you don't bore students, right? You've got to give little bits, use real consistent language so that one word means one thing, be real consistent, but and try to make sure students understand things. Be willing to say, you know what, that's a great question. Let's talk about that after class because it's going to take too long to discuss. I will answer you, but not right now. Those are all great techniques to make sure that we don't do the thing that you're describing, which is a real serious concern, which is going too far in the opposite direction, right? As humans, we often overcorrect. So you can overcorrect and it just becomes talk and no training, or all training and no talk. So finding that balance is a real hard thing.
yes, that is true. That is true. So let's go ahead and take into our fifth one. If you could teach the new generation of martial artists only one thing, philosophy or technique or a combination of the two, what would it be?
Man, all these, I have such a difficulty always picking a top one thing. So again, I might give you a couple things here to to pick from. But like I just mentioned the word balance a moment ago. I think balance is a real important thing, especially because we're talking about martial traditions. And I think what I find is people really struggle in the West, figuring out a good way to find themselves and their place in a tradition. So because some of us don't speak the language or don't speak it well or don't understand the history well or the culture well, sometimes we misunderstand tradition. And some people then, because they misunderstand tradition, they want to throw it all away and just go do something else, right? Or just change the art too much. So I think balance is really, really important. Balancing tradition, what it means, what we understand about tradition, what the tradition has taught us, and then balancing with that kind of our desire to be progressive and individualized. So, tradition or balance. Tradition is more about kind of conserving the old, and progressiveness is more about just kind of paving a new path. And I think figuring out the way to carry traditional martial arts into the future, I think requires that we balance those two things. And I think that's quite challenging for a lot of people. So I would say, it's a good thing to talk with your teacher about, to understand what's important about the tradition and where the tradition allows for spontaneity and evolution and those kinds of things, because people can feel very chafed by tradition, and it's like, oh, we just do it this way. It's like, no, we do it that way in the beginning. Later, you can also do it other ways. So even that message is hard for some people to understand when they come into martial arts. So for me, one of my life's goals is to help make sure that the martial traditions that I've been very lucky to have been placed in my hands, that they don't I do my part to try to help make sure that they can survive into the future. And so for me, I'm always trying to figure out my place in the tradition. Where do I exist? Where does my teacher want my help? Is my teacher passed and it's up to me in certain cases? Where do we sit in these traditions? How do we modify the teaching methods while we keep the core of the identity of the art, but maybe change and enhance the teaching methods so that we can make sure that they're effective and functional and well understood and consistently taught, and things of that nature. So I think balance, along with the open-mindedness of progressiveness, I think is really helpful. So that balance between tradition and progression is very difficult for people in my experience.
No, trust me, I agree with you on that too. So, being able to teach that balance and to teach that that balance is needed is a definite thing that you would pass on to future martial artists and so on.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's
Oh,
absolutely brilliant, Sifu Russ. Thank you very much for that one.
welcome.
So, we've come to our last question. And as always, I always say it's the most difficult. How can you be contacted?
Yeah. So my website is burinkan.org. That's BURINKAN.org. From there, you can find links out to our Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and those things. But there's a lot of information about me and the styles I teach and some of the programs that I offer and some of the books that I've written. I do some online teaching. I'm teaching a number of workshops. I've got a workshop every month through the rest of the year across the US and into Canada, and in London this year. So I've got a lot going on this year. It's very busy. So please reach out to me via email or Facebook DM or Instagram, that kind of thing. Burin Khan, by the way, it's a Japanese. I named it while I was still primarily teaching mainly Goju-Ryu, but Burin, for those that don't know, it comes from a Chinese saying. Wu Lin Yi Jia in Mandarin means all the martial forest is one family. So it's a way of saying we're all in this together. We're all good kung fu brothers and sisters, and we should all support each other. So I have advisors in my school on a daily basis that are from other styles that we're very friendly with. I try to stay friendly with other people. I know different styles aren't what matters, it's individuals. Styles are just kind of templates for learning. So, people are what matters in this world. So, please, always continue to take that idea of that we're all one family, and, keep it fun, enjoy, cross train, share, help each other along the way. There might even be more teachers than there are students nowadays. So, let's teachers get together, share ideas, see what we can do to help make sure that these traditions that we've been given can survive into the future.
Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. Hey, contact information for Sifu Russ Smith will be in the description down below. Also in the description down below will be a link for Feiyue shoes. If you need a pair of Feiyue shoes, go ahead and click the link down below. Get the best prices, get the best deals, all at Feiyue shoes. Sifu Russ Smith, I want to thank you very much for the time that you have taken to
It's my
speak with
pleasure.
me about
Thank
your
you, sir.
martial arts journey, sir. All through Hatha martial arts, Fujian martial arts, Japanese martial arts. Thank you very much. It was fun.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.